It was 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday when the dash cam footage turned my world upside down. I'd slapped that camera in Marissa's Jeep about 3 months back after some punk scratched her door in a parking lot in Spokane. Motion activated, night vision, the whole deal, just meant to catch lowlifes messing with her car. But what I got instead was my wife, Marissa, tangled up with Leonard Price in the shadows behind a greasy spoon called Hank's Grill. I sat in my garage workshop, my coffee turning to sludge in my mug, staring at the tiny screen. 17 years of marriage boiled down to blurry pixels and faint noises slipping through her cracked window. Leonard's campaign decal screamed, "Trust in us," across the back of his Cadillac. I must have watched that clip 9 times. Each loop peeled away another chunk of who I thought I was. On the 10th, I backed it up to a secure drive and named it Safeguard. Marissa had been staying late a lot lately. Curriculum planning sessions, she'd told me. Grant proposals, she said, her new boots tapping across our oak floors when she slipped in after dark, her phone now locked with some code that wasn't our wedding date anymore. I drained my beer and locked up the garage. Inside our house in Tacoma's Proctor district, she was already out cold, her breathing steady like nothing was wrong. This was the woman I'd built my life around. I stood in our bedroom doorway for a solid 15 minutes, staring at her face in the moonlight, searching for hints I'd been too blind to catch. Signs I should have seen. There was nothing obvious. Marissa always had a knack for numbers, always precise. Come morning, she pecked my cheek and mentioned she'd be late again. Another planning session. "What's the grant for?" I asked, spreading jam on my toast. "After-school programs," she replied without a hitch. "Leonard says we've got a good chance at some national funding." Leonard. His name had popped up 8 times in the last month. Old classmate from Westfield High, now a city council hotshot gunning for a state seat. I remembered Leonard Price, cocky basketball star who'd once shoved me into a gym locker and called it team spirit. "That's awesome, babe," I said. "Really awesome." She flashed a smile, grabbed her tote bag, the same one she carried to all those late-night meetings, and peeled out of our driveway in her Jeep. After she left, I cracked open her laptop. She'd asked me to troubleshoot a glitch last week, so I'd copied her hard drive while poking around. Just routine tech stuff, I told myself. Her files were neat as always, color-coded, time-stamped, labeled like a librarian's dream, but tucked deep in her documents was a folder called Horizon Project. Not school supplies, bank records, invoice drafts, grant forms with tweaked figures, and a contact list with Leonard's name front and center. I copied it all to a thumb drive labeled Winter 2023 and stashed it behind the water heater. That afternoon, while swapping spark plugs on Mrs. Callahan's Toyota at my shop in Tacoma, I kept mulling over those numbers. The grant proposals Marissa was pushing asked for $927,000 for classroom tech. The invoices, they showed $410,000 in actual purchases. Someone was pocketing over $500,000, someone who knew how to juggle figures like a pro. My phone pinged. A text from Marissa. "Staying late again. Don't wait up." I cruised by Hank's Grill around 9:30 p.m. Her Jeep was parked in the back lot, engine humming. 25 minutes later, Leonard's Cadillac rolled up beside her. From my truck across the street, I saw them chatting through their windows. An envelope passed between them. Then Leonard peeled out, and Marissa sat there alone for another 15 before driving home. When she walked into our house at 11 p.m., I was sprawled on the couch, flipping channels. "How'd the session go?" I asked. "Really productive," she said. "We're going to make a big difference for those students." She brushed a kiss on my forehead and headed upstairs. The shower ran for a good 40 minutes. When she came back down in her bathrobe, her hair still dripping, she looked at me. "Corey," she said, "do you ever think about where we're headed? Like really think about it?" "All the time," I said. "Good," she replied, squeezing my arm. "Everything I'm doing, it's for us." I lay awake that night, listening to her soft breathing. 17 years and Marissa had never been much of a liar. But tonight, her lies were smooth as silk, like she'd been rehearsing. Being a mechanic means everybody needs you eventually. 3 weeks later, Leonard waltzed into my shop with his Cadillac. "Brake issues," he said. "Nothing major." "Corey Platt," he said, gripping my hand with that polished election year charm. "Bet you don't remember me from high school." "Leonard Price," I said. "Hard to forget." He chuckled. "Different days, huh? We were just dumb kids." Dumb kids, like locking me in a gym locker, was just a prank. I forced a grin, nodded, and got to work on his brakes. While his car was up on the lift, I pressed his key fob into some molding putty, an old trick from my National Guard days. Never know when you might need access to places you're not welcome. Your wife works at Westfield Elementary, right? Leonard said, nursing a coffee in my waiting area. Marissa's sharp, really knows her numbers. She does, I said. We're collaborating on some grant proposals, he went on. Big bucks if we nail it. Could change education around here. That's what she says, I replied, tightening a bolt. She's humble, Leonard added. Without her skill at crunching numbers, we'd be dead in the water for that funding. She's got a real talent for making figures line up. Making figures line up. I finished his breaks thinking about that phrase. He paid in cash, handed me his business card. Anything you need, Corey, he said. Anything at all, give me a call. We look out for each other around here. Each other? Like I'd ever run in his circle. That night, Marissa came home early for the first time in ages. She whipped up meatloaf and cracked open some wine. We ate like regular folks, chatting about her kids at school, my clients at the shop, the rain coming in. She laughed at my dumb jokes, asked about my day, and for a couple of hours it felt like the old days. Then her phone lit up. Her face shifted when she glanced at it. Work? I asked. Just a parent, she said, stressed about a field trip. But she kept sneaking peeks at her screen through dessert, typing replies with her phone angled away from me. Gonna take a bath, she said around 10:30. Wanna join? Maybe next time, she said. I'm beat. I waited until the water was running in the bathroom, then snatched Marissa's phone off the kitchen counter. For years, her password was our anniversary. Then it switched to her birthday. Now, it was 072388, Leonard Price's birthday, plastered all over his campaign flyers. Her texts were wiped clean, but I knew better. Cloud backups don't lie. Everything was stored automatically. I dug into her chat with Leonard, stretching back 6 months. Leonard, how much can we funnel this quarter? Marissa had written. Maybe $250K, he replied. State audits not until summer. This is risky, she texted. If anyone digs too deep, nobody checks school grants, sweetheart, he shot back. Trust me. Sweetheart. My wife was sweetheart to Leonard Price. The messages went on, page after page. Financial breakdowns, meeting spots, and tucked in the middle. Plans that had nothing to do with cash. Leonard, your place tonight, Marissa wrote. Corey's stuck at the shop late. The back door's open, he replied. Can't wait. They'd been meeting in our house, in our bed, while I was at the garage grinding away to build our future. I cleared the phone's history, set it back on the counter, and headed upstairs. The bath was still running. I tapped on the door. Are you good there? All good, Marissa called back. Just unwinding. I crawled into bed, faking sleep. When she slid under the sheets an hour later, her skin reeked of jasmine soap and betrayal. Morning coffee hit me differently when I knew my marriage was dead. It tasted sour, like the truth had poisoned it. Marissa was getting ready for work, humming some tunes I didn't know. She'd been humming a lot lately, cheerful, full of energy, like she was carrying secrets worth celebrating. Might be late again, she said, touching up her lipstick in our bedroom mirror. Big pitch tomorrow for the grant. Nice, I said, forcing a smile. She turned, her eyes bright. If this pans out, we could finally take that trip to Italy. Italy. We dreamed about it on our honeymoon 17 years ago, before life got messy. Before she decided Leonard Price was more exciting than the guy who'd loved her since we were 19. That'd be great, I said, my voice flat. After her Jeep rolled out of our driveway in Tacoma's Proctor district, I sat at the kitchen table with her laptop and the thumb drive labeled Winter 2023. 6 months of siphoned money, 6 months of stolen moments, 6 months of Marissa turning into a stranger. But I saw the pattern. Marissa was a wizard with numbers, but her real genius was systems. She'd built a flawless scheme. File grant proposals for jacked up amounts, fake invoices through dummy companies, funnel the excess into accounts tied to Leonard's campaign, and pocket just enough to justify the gamble. They'd skimmed $410,000 so far. The paper trail was hidden in legit transactions, but if you knew where to poke, it was clear as day. I duplicated everything and uploaded it to a burner email account. Then I created a fake identity. Gus Harlan, school custodian. Nobody'd question a janitor poking around in files. I tracked down Kendra Walsh, a local reporter who'd built a rep exposing small-town scams. Her bio bragged about sniffing out financial fraud and political dirt, exactly what I needed. I drafted an email as Gus. Ms. Walsh, I'm just a night worker at Westfield Elementary. Been seeing weird stuff in the records. Grant forms that don't match purchase orders, bank statements that don't add up. I'm no genius, but it looks like someone's stealing funds meant for kids with special needs. I've attached some files. Maybe you can figure it out. Gus! I attached just enough to hook her. Bank records showing fat deposits to Leonard's campaign, invoice templates on Westfield Elementary letterhead, grant forms with fudge numbers. Then I hit send and headed to the shop. Russ Carver was already at the garage when I pulled in, knee-deep in an engine overhaul. Russ had been my business partner for 9 years. Steady, reliable, the kind of guy who showed up and worked hard for an honest buck. "You look rough," he said, wiping oil off his hands. "Marissa keeping you up?" He smirked. "Lucky dog." Lucky, if he only knew. "Something like that," I muttered. I spent the morning on autopilot, tire rotations, oil changes, simple stuff that didn't need brain power. My hands moved while my head churned through scenarios. Marissa and Leonard were cautious, but they'd slipped up. People always do it when they think they're untouchable. At lunch, I swung by Westfield Elementary. Marissa's Jeep sat in the faculty lot, just another Tuesday. Nothing hinted that her world was about to implode. My phone pinged with an email from Kendra Walsh. "Gus, these files are intriguing, but I need more to go public. Can you get payroll records or staff purchase approvals? I'm especially curious about any exchanges between Marissa Platt and Leonard Price. If this checks out, it's a huge story." Kendra. She'd bitten. Now I just had to play it slowly. The rest of the afternoon, I gathered more proof. Bank statements, printed emails, schedules showing Marissa and Leonard at the same places, at same times. I was piecing together evidence like a detective, cataloging every shady deal and every deception. At 5:30 p.m., Marissa texted, "Staying late again. Grab some takeout if you're starving." Staying late. Probably meeting Leonard in some seedy motel or dark corner they'd picked for tonight's scheming. I wondered if they snickered about me. The grease monkey husband who crashed early and never asked the tough questions. They were about to find out I wasn't as clueless as they thought. Leonard's arrest hit the front page of the Tacoma Tribune. DUI and a hit and run, the story said. They found him slumped in his Cadillac outside Rusty's Tavern, headlight busted, paint scratches matching a dented stop sign on Cedar Avenue. I skimmed the article over coffee while Marissa got ready for work, taking forever, her eyes glued to her phone every few seconds. "Rough news about Leonard," I said, keeping my tone light. She fumbled her eyeliner. "What about Leonard?" "The arrest," I said, holding up the paper. "DUI, hit and run. His campaign's probably toast." Her face went pale as a ghost. "Let me see." She scanned the article 3 times, her hands trembling. Leonard's mugshot glared from the front page. Hair a mess, eyes bloodshot. Nothing like the slick councilman from his billboards. "This is," she started, then stopped. "What?" "Just wild," she said. "I work with him on those grants." Work with him. A polite way to dress up fraud and betrayal. "Maybe someone else can handle the grants," I offered. "Yeah," she mumbled, her voice far off, already spinning how Leonard's arrest would mess with their hustle. She bolted for work without her usual peck on my cheek. Setting up Leonard's crash was easier than I'd figured. I'd used the molded copy of his key fob to move his Cadillac from the diner lot to Rusty's Tavern while he was inside chowing down. I parked my truck nearby and waited until he staggered out, plastered and wobbly. A quick nudge from behind as he fumbled his keys, just enough to trip him up and scrape his bumper on a curb. Then I peeled out and called 911 from a gas station payphone, reporting a drunk driver. Leonard probably didn't even recall climbing into his car. The liquor did half my job for me. That afternoon, Kendra Walsh rang the shop. "Is this Gus Harlan?" she asked. I dropped my voice to the gruff janitor tone I'd rehearsed. "Yeah, that's me." "I've been digging into those files you sent," she said. "This is huge. Can we meet?" "I don't know," I said. "Could get canned for this." "I get it," she replied. "But if you're right, kids are getting robbed. Money for their supplies is lining some politicians' pockets." She was sharp, hitting the angle that'd tug at a janitor's heart. "There's more," I said. "Been gathering stuff for months, but I need to know you're all in on this story." "Dead serious," she said. "Can you get me staff emails, anything between Platt and Price?" "I'll try," I said. "Give me a couple days." That night, Marissa came home early again. She cooked pasta and popped open some wine, acting like everything was fine, but her eyes were calculating, plotting her next move now that Leonard was sidelined. "How's your day?" I asked over dinner. "Okay, pretty calm," she said. "The kids were good. Any news on the grants?" She froze, fork halfway to her lips. "On pause for now. With Leonard's legal mess, The district's double-checking all the projects. Smart move, I said. Gotta be careful with public funds, right? Right, she echoed, her voice tight. After dinner, she holed up in our home office with her laptop. I heard her typing away for hours, probably shredding files, covering her tracks in case Leonard flipped to save his own skin. Too bad for her. I'd backed everything up weeks ago. Around 1 a.m., she slipped into bed and snuggled close, like nothing was wrong. Corey, she whispered, do you love me? The question hit like a curveball, like she was probing for cracks. Of course, I said. Why ask? Just thinking, she said. Sometimes it feels like we're drifting. Drifting? She wasn't drifting. She was sprinting away, taking chunks of our life with her. We're good, I said. Right where we need to be. She dozed off in my arms, but I stayed up till sunrise, listening to her breathe and mapping out her downfall. At 6:30 a.m. Thursday, an email from Kendra Walsh popped up. Gus, I've cross-checked your info with other sources. This story drops Monday morning. Thanks for your guts. Kendra, I deleted it and sipped my coffee. 4 days and Marissa's world would crater. Leonard was already out of the game, locked up, waiting for his lawyer to scrape together bail. His campaign was dead, the money trail locked tight. Now it was Marissa's turn. She was in the shower when I left for the shop, humming that same damn tune, still chipper, still clueless about the storm coming. Russ was swapping tires on a Chevy pickup when I got to the garage. You're here early, he said. Couldn't sleep. Trouble at home? I looked at him. Russ had been with his wife for 27 years. They bickered about bills and chores, but it was honest. No lies buried in hard drives. Something like that, I said. Want to talk? Not yet. He nodded and got back to work. Russ knew some fights you face alone. Around 10:30, Detective Larson swung by the shop. Detective Larson was poking around about Leonard's hit and run, he said. Just standard stuff. You know Leonard Price, he asked. Fixed his Cadillac brakes a few weeks back, I said. Anything off about him? Seemed drunk, maybe distracted? Nah, seemed fine, I said. Mostly yapped about his campaign. Politics, you know. Got it. Larson jotted something in his notebook. You stay late at the shop much? Ever notice anything weird around Rusty's Tavern? Usually home by 6, I said. Family guy, you know. Sure thing, he said. Thanks for your time. Call if anything comes to mind. After he left, Russ shook his head. Poor sap, he said. Leonard, yeah, poured his whole life into that campaign. Now it's dead before it even got going. Maybe it's better this way, I said. Politics is a filthy game. Ain't that the truth, Russ muttered. I spent the afternoon wrestling with a stubborn gearbox that had been a pain for weeks. Sometimes a tricky problem just needs time. You take it apart piece by piece, find the busted bit, swap it out, and rebuild it stronger. Marissa called around 4:30. Can you grab dinner? She said. Buried in lesson plans. No sweat, I said. Thai food? Perfect. Love you. Love you too, I said. And I meant it. I still loved the woman she was before greed and Leonard Price turned her into someone I didn't know. That night we ate takeout and watched TV like any old couple. She was almost bubbly, relaxed in a way that didn't add up. Leonard's arrest probably gave her breathing room to plot her next step. She was clever enough to know she needed a way out. I've been thinking, she said during a commercial, maybe we should take a trip, just us. Get away for a bit. Where to? I asked. Somewhere warm, she said. Belize, maybe, or Panama. Somewhere to chill and reconnect. Somewhere with no extradition treaties, more like. She was already planning her escape. Sounds nice, I said. When you thinking? Soon, she said. Maybe next month. I've got some vacation days saved. Next month, after the grant money was cleaned and moved, after she'd figured out how to vanish without a trace. I'll check on flights, I said. Actually, she said, let me handle it. I've got downtime at school. Of course she did. She wanted to control the plans, pick the spot, set the timeline, just like she'd controlled her secret life. Whatever works, I said. That night she came to me with a desperate kind of passion, like she was trying to prove we still had something worth holding on to. Afterwards, she fell asleep with her head on my chest, and I stared at the ceiling till dawn. 2 days until Kendra's story dropped. 2 days until Marissa realized her husband wasn't the simpleton she thought. Monday morning came cold and gray, the kind of November day that screamed winter was closing in. I was brushing my teeth when Marissa's phone started blowing up. Call after call. Popular morning, I called toward the bedroom. Just work crap, she shouted back. but her voice was tense, shaky. I rinsed my mouth and found her perched on the bed, staring at her phone like it might bite. "You okay?" "Fine," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Just parent-teacher meetings this week. Everyone's stressed." Her phone rang again. She picked up. "Hello? What?" "No, I can't. I'll call you later." She hung up, stood fast. "Gotta get to school early," she said. "Issue with the after-school budget." Issue. That was one way to put it. After she left our house in Tacoma's Proctor district, I brewed coffee and waited. At 7 a.m. sharp, I pulled up Kendra Walsh's blog on my laptop. The headline made me grin. Westfield teacher accused of siphoning funds for disabled students. The article was brutal, airtight. Bank records, email logs, meeting schedules, financial docs, all laid out like a courtroom case. Kendra had taken the evidence I fed her and built a masterpiece. Marissa Platt, beloved educator, had been systematically diverting money meant for kids with special needs to Leonard Price's campaign, pocketing a cut for herself. The story quoted district officials and furious parents. It painted Marissa as a villain. My phone rang at 7:20, Marissa sobbing. "Corey, something awful's happened. Someone's saying I stole school funds. It's all lies, but they're claiming—" "Whoa, slow down," I said. "What's going on?" "There's this article online about me and Leonard," she said. "They're saying we took grant money. It's crazy. I'd never—" "Where are you?" "At school. The principal wants to talk. Cops might show up." "Corey, I'm terrified." She sounded genuinely scared, like maybe she'd started buying her own lies, convincing herself it wasn't really theft. "I'm coming over," I said. "No, don't," she said. "It'll make it worse. I have to deal with this alone." "You sure?" "Yes, I just needed to hear you believe me." "Of course I believe you," I lied. "We'll get through this." "I love you," she said. "Love you too." She hung up and I poured another coffee. Phase 1 was done. Marissa was exposed, her career in ruins, her back against the wall, but she still thought she could talk her way out. She had no clue how deep she'd fallen. At noon, she called again. "They suspended me," she said, voice raw. "Pending investigation. They changed my classroom locks, Corey. Treated me like a crook." "That's rough," I said. "Must have been humiliating." "The parents are already gossiping," she said. "I saw them in the parking lot, whispering, pointing at me. 17 years of teaching, and they're acting like I'm guilty." "Are you?" I asked, voice low. Silence hung heavy. "Corey, how could you even say that?" "I'm your husband," I said. "I need the truth." "The truth is someone's framing me," she said. "They're using Leonard's legal mess to take me down." Framing her. She was half right, but she'd dug her own grave. I was the one tearing her world apart, but she'd handed me the tools to do it. "Come home," I said. "We'll sort this out together." An hour later, she walked through the door of our house in Tacoma's Proctor district, looking like she'd aged a decade. Her makeup was streaked, her hair a mess. The confident woman humming in the bathroom that morning was gone. "They think I'm a crook," she said, slumping onto the couch. "What do you think?" Her eyes met mine, genuinely puzzled, like the question didn't compute. "I think someone got into the school system and faked records to pin it on me," she said. "I think Leonard's enemies are using me to tank his campaign." Leonard's enemies, rival politicians, business foes, anyone who wanted his run derailed. Still lying even now with her career in ashes and charges looming. "Marissa," I said, sitting next to her, "I found something on your laptop." Her face drained of color. "What?" I set a thumb drive on the coffee table between us. Bank records, emails, schedules, everything that reporter used in her story. She stared at it like it might bite. "I don't get it." "I copied it all weeks ago," I said, "when I was fixing your computer." "You spied on me?" "I was trying to figure out why my wife was sneaking home late, why her phone password changed, why she was lying about where she'd been." She stood, backing away. "You dug through my private files." "Private files full of stolen cash and fake documents," I said. "They're not—" "I can explain." But she didn't. She just stood there, caught between her lies and the truth, finally realizing our marriage was done. "How long have you known?" she asked. "Long enough." "Did you send that stuff to the journalist?" I didn't answer. My face said it all. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You ruined me. You wrecked my life." "No," I said, voice low. "You wrecked your own life. I just made sure everyone saw it." She bolted upstairs, throwing clothes into a bag. I let her go. There was nowhere she could hide that I couldn't track. Tuesday morning, Marissa was gone. She'd taken a duffel bag, her jewelry, and $4,000 from our emergency stash. A note sat on the kitchen counter. Don't look for me. I need space to think. Space to think. More like time to tap into whatever offshore accounts she and Leonard had set up. Money they'd siphoned for a moment like this. I called in sick to the shop and spent the morning tracing her steps. Credit card alerts showed a gas purchase in Yakima, 2 hours east, then a motel charge in Bend, Oregon. She was heading toward Idaho, maybe aiming for Guatemala, but she'd slipped up using the card tied to our joint account. Every transaction pinged my phone. Detective Larson called around 1 p.m. Mr. Platt, we need to talk to your wife about the school fund case. Is she around? She's with her cousin, I said. Family issue, but I'll pass the message. We'd like her to come in for questions, he said. Voluntary, just to clear things up. I'll tell her. Also, he added, we're looking at Leonard Price's hit and run. Your shop worked on his Cadillac recently, right? Yeah, brake job, I said. Anything odd about the car? Damage, maybe? Or if he mentioned anything about it? I thought of the cloned key fob tucked in my toolbox. Nothing weird, I said. Just routine work. All right, thanks, he said. Have your wife call us when she's back. Will do. That afternoon, Marissa's card showed a charge at a diner outside Boise, then an ATM cash pull. She was smart enough to know cards could be tracked, but not smart enough to turn off the alerts. I drove to Bend and hit the motel. The clerk remembered her. A pretty woman, jittery, paid cash for 2 nights. She checked out that morning, asking for directions to the highway. Did she say where she was going? I asked. Vegas, maybe, or Tucson, the clerk said. Somewhere starting with a T or V. Somewhere starting with V, like Victor, Leonard's middle name. I called Russ and told him I'd be out the rest of the week. Family stuff, I said. Everything okay? He asked. Just got to take care of something. Take your time, he said. We'll hold it down. Russ was a solid friend, better than I deserved for what I was planning. That night I cruised by Leonard's place in Tacoma. The campaign signs were gone, windows dark, but his Cadillac was in the driveway. Either he was laying low from the press or Marissa had reached out, and they were scheming their next move. I parked across the street and waited. At 1 a.m., Leonard's door opened. Marissa slipped out, glancing around nervously, then darted to a rental car parked a few houses down. She'd been with him for hours. They were running together, partners to the bitter end. I tailed the rental to the interstate, keeping my distance so she wouldn't spot me. Marissa drove like someone who'd never been followed, speeding up then slowing down, checking her mirrors every few seconds. She was scared but dead set on getting away. Marissa took the exit for Clearwater Lake. Leonard's family had a place out there for years, a secluded cabin perfect for lying low while the legal storm blew over. Remote, hidden, no prying eyes. I cruised past the lake road and doubled back through the pines. I knew this area like the back of my hand from fishing trips with my dad back in the day. Every path, every dirt track, every way in or out. Marissa and Leonard thought they were slick, holing up in a backwoods hideout while their lawyers scrambled to limit the fallout. They probably had cash stashed, passports ready, a plan to vanish for good once the heat died down. They had no clue I'd been plotting their downfall for months, mapping out every detail, every possibility, except the ones where they slipped away. I parked my truck a mile from Leonard's cabin and checked my gear. Zip ties, duct tape, a gas can, work gloves, everything I needed for the final, no BS talk we were about to have. A storm was rolling in from the west, black clouds promising a downpour before morning. Perfect cover for what was coming. The cabin sat on a ridge above Clearwater Lake, nestled among cedar trees that had probably been there since Leonard's great-grandpa built the place. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a big living area with a brick fireplace, a fancy getaway where rich folks played at roughing it, while hired help did the heavy lifting. I'd scoped the property twice in the last month, memorizing the layout, sight lines, and weak spots. The back door had a basic deadbolt I could pick in 20 seconds. The windows were old 1970s single pane, barely muffling sound. The nearest neighbor was 4 miles off. Marissa's rental car sat next to Leonard's Cadillac in the dirt driveway. A soft glow flickered through the front windows, likely a fire in the hearth. They were getting cozy while their lives imploded back into coma. Rain started spitting as I neared the cabin, fat drops that'd soon turn into a deluge. I crouched by Leonard's car and sliced 2 tires with my pocket knife, then did the same to Marissa's rental. If they tried to bolt, they'd be hoofing it through miles of rugged woods. The power line ran to a pole 60 yards from the cabin. I scaled it no problem. Years of swapping shop lights kept me nimbler than I looked. One snip with my wire cutters, and the cabin went black. Through the kitchen window, I saw Marissa and Leonard's shadows against the firelight, arguing, voices muffled but sharp. Probably fighting over money, or who to blame, or who'd take the fall when their lawyers couldn't make the mess vanish. The back door was locked, as expected, but Leonard's family never bothered with serious security out here. Rich folks' problems were usually lawsuits or tax dodges, not break-ins. The doorframe was weathered spruce, soft enough to bust with a couple kicks. Instead, I used the key I'd molded from Leonard's fob weeks ago. Clean, quiet, no damage to explain later. The kitchen smelled like stale coffee and panic. Their voices carried clearly through the thin walls. "This is crazy," Marissa said. "We should turn ourselves in, cut a deal." "And say what?" Leonard snapped, voice raw with fear. "That we accidentally took $500,000? That it was all a mix-up?" "We could say it was your plan," she shot back. "That you roped me into it." "Jesus, Marissa. An hour ago you were ready to run to Belize with me. Now you're throwing me to the wolves?" "I want to get through this," she said. "My husband knows everything. He's the one who fed that reporter. He's been setting this up for months." Leonard went quiet. "Your husband? The grease monkey?" "He's not as dumb as you thought," she said. "Clearly," Leonard muttered. I crept through the kitchen, avoiding the creaky floorboard by the stove I'd clocked during my earlier recon. The living room was just past an open doorway. They sat on a couch facing the fireplace. Leonard had a handgun on the coffee table beside him. Smart guy. Too bad it wouldn't save him. I stayed in the dark and listened as they tore into each other. "We've still got the Bahamas account," Leonard said. 200 grand, enough to disappear if we're smart." "Disappear and live how?" Marissa said. "Like fugitives? That's not me." "You're even less cut out for a cell," he said. She stood and paced to the window, staring into the night. "Maybe we split up," she said. "Take half each. Better chance if we're not together." "After all we've done," Leonard scoffed. "All we've done landed us here. Time to face reality." "Reality?" He laughed bitter. "Reality was not trusting a small-town teacher with a federal scam. And reality was not betting on a politician who can't keep it in his pants," she fired back. They were turning on each other, just like I knew they would. Thieves always crack when the heat's on. That whole honor among criminals thing? A fairy tale spun by folks who've never broken the law. Marissa moved back toward the couch, passing within 5 feet of me in the doorway. In the fire's glow, she looked worn, tougher than before. The sweet, small-town wife who'd kissed me goodbye every morning for 17 years was gone. This was the real Marissa, the one who could rob kids with disabilities and still curl up next to me at night without a flicker of guilt. "I need a drink," she said. "Pantry," Leonard said. "Dad kept a bottle of bourbon behind the canned soup." She headed toward the kitchen, straight for me. I flattened myself against the wall as she stepped in, her boots soft on the faded linoleum. She was 2 feet away, rummaging through the shelves in the dark. Her perfume hit me, the same scent she wore on our wedding day. She grabbed the bottle and turned. That's when I stepped out of the shadows. "Hey, Marissa!" The bourbon crashed to the floor, shattering, the sharp smell of liquor mixing with broken glass. "Corey," she whispered, barely audible. "How'd you find me?" "Same way I found everything else," I said. "You're not as slick as you think." Leonard's voice cut through from the living room. "Marissa, you okay?" She opened her mouth to yell. I slapped my hand over it and pressed my pocket knife's tip against her throat. "One noise," I hissed, "and this gets real bad for everyone." Her eyes were wild with fear, but she nodded. I eased my hand off. "Corey, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you swiped funds from kids who need it? How you hooked up with Leonard in our bed while I was at the shop? How you planned to bolt to Guatemala with $500,000? It wasn't supposed to go like this," she said, tears spilling. Real ones, not the fake sobs she'd used to play me for months. "I love you, Corey. Everything I did was for us, for our future." "Our future?" I said. "You mean the one where you vanish with Leonard and leave me to deal with your mess?" "Marissa?" Leonard called again. "You good?" I nodded toward the living room, knife still in hand. "Tell him you're fine. Say you're coming back." "I'm okay," she called, voice shaky. "Just need a sec." "Good," I said. "Now we're going to go talk to Leonard, and you're going to help me get some honest answers." "What kind of talk?" "The kind where people stop lying." I nudged her toward the living room, the knife against her back. Leonard was on his feet, gripping his pistol. "Drop the knife, Corey," he said as we stepped into the firelight. He saw the blade at Marissa's back and raised his gun. "Let her go. We don't need to get ugly." "You wrecked my marriage, stole from kids, turned my wife into a crook," I said. "Sounds like ugly's exactly what this calls for." We can cut a deal, he said. Split the money 3 ways. I don't want your cash, I said. Then what? I looked at Marissa, then back at Leonard. 2 people who thought they were smarter than everyone else, who'd underestimated the grease monkey they'd lied to for months. I want you to get what you've done. I want you to face the fallout, and I want you to know there's still one decent guy out there. Leonard kept the gun on me, but his hand shook. You're not a killer, Corey, he said. I remember you from high school. Always the good guy, the reasonable one. The good guy you locked in gym storage, I said. The good guy whose wife you dragged into this. That was then, he said. We were kids. Now we're adults. We make choices and live with them. I pushed Marissa toward the couch. Sit, both of you. Leonard hesitated, then lowered the gun and sat next to her. They looked like what they were, 2 people out of moves about to pay the price. 17 years, I said, staring at Marissa. I thought I knew you. You do, she said. This isn't me. Then who are you? The teacher showing kids how to be honest? Or the one robbing their education funds? She didn't answer. I turned to Leonard. And you running on trust and responsibility. How much did you take? It wasn't theft, he said. It was campaign funding, all above board. Lying to federal grant boards is above board? Faking school records is legal? Cheating might not be a crime, but fraud sure is. Look, Leonard said, we screwed up, but nobody needs to get hurt. We can disappear. You'll never see us again. That's the thing, I said. I'll always see you. Every time I look in the mirror, I'll see the idiot who married a thief. Every news story about corruption will remind me you got away. So what's your plan? Marissa asked. Get rid of us? You'll end up in jail. Maybe, I said, but you'll still be done. The rain was pounding now, hammering the windows. Lightning lit up the lake below, a storm that could erase tracks and muddle stories. Perfect for settling scores. I need to know something, I said, sinking into a chair across from them. When did you decide I was too dumb to catch on? They swapped a glance, still scheming, still hunting for an edge even now. It wasn't like that, Marissa said. Then what was it? Walk me through it. When did my wife decide to turn crook? Leonard opened his mouth, but I jabbed the knife his way. I'm talking to her, the woman who vowed to love and honor me till death. Marissa wiped her eyes. It started small, she said. Leonard needed campaign cash, and the school had extra grant funds. Just a short-term loan, we said. When did the loan become theft? When we saw how easy it was, she said. The oversight was a joke. Audits were laughable. We could funnel money through fake companies, and nobody'd notice for years. Somebody noticed, I said. You weren't supposed to be looking, she said. Leonard leaned in. Corey, politics takes money. Real change needs resources. We were building something bigger. By ripping off kids with special needs? I laughed, a cold, hard sound. Creative financing, huh? Is that what you called it when you were with my wife in our bed? Marissa flinched. That was separate, she said. Personal? Personal, I said. You made it personal when you brought him into our home, our bed, our life. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. But you knew I'd find out, I said. You just hoped you'd be long gone by then. Marissa nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Yeah, she whispered. The plan was to grab enough cash to vanish, leave you with the fallout, and start fresh somewhere else together. And if I'd never caught on, I said, if I'd been as clueless as you thought, what then? I don't know, she said. We never got that far. Of course not, I said. I was never in the picture, just the chump husband slaving away at the shop while you two bled our town dry. Leonard was getting antsy, his eyes flicking to the pistol on the coffee table. Don't, I warned. Touch that gun, and this talk ends ugly for everyone. So how's it end, Corey? He asked. What's your play here? Simple, I said. You're going to spill everything. Every lie, every detail, every stolen buck. Then you're going to face what's coming. What's coming? I stepped toward the fireplace, feeling the heat on my skin. When I was deployed in Afghanistan, I said, I learned about consequences. Out there, if someone sold out the team for their own gain, there was a reckoning. Justice was straightforward. This ain't Afghanistan, Marissa said. No, I said, turning to face them. It's worse. There, we knew the enemy. Here, the enemy was in my bed. I locked eyes with them. Want to know what's next? I'm making sure you can't hurt anyone else. I'm making sure you can't dodge what you've done. And I'm making sure people remember one guy stood up for what's right. Leonard's hand twitched toward the gun. I wouldn't, I said. You're not a killer, Corey, he said. You're bluffing. Am I? I said. What's a man got left when his wife torches everything he believed in? What's he got to lose? The question hung heavy. Outside, lightning cracked close, thunder rumbling right after. The storm was right above us. Money, I said. Let's talk money. How much did you take total? Including the Bahamas account? Leonard asked. Everything. 700 grand, maybe 8. Good Lord, I said. 800,000, swiped from programs for kids with disabilities. How do you sleep at night? Those programs had extra funds, Leonard said. The money was just sitting there. Sitting there for wheelchairs, speech devices, therapy programs, stuff that helps kids who can't help themselves, I said. We were going to pay it back, Marissa said. When? I said. After you skipped to Guatemala? She went quiet. Here's the deal, I said. You're giving me every account number, every shell company, every offshore stash, all of it. Then what? Leonard asked. The money goes back where it belongs, to the kids you robbed. And us? I looked at Marissa, the woman I'd loved since we were 19, my partner for 17 years, the one who'd shattered everything we'd built. You made your choices, I said. Now you deal with them. Leonard lunged for the gun. I was quicker. My knife pinned his hand to the wooden coffee table. He howled, trying to yank free, but the blade was sunk deep into the wood. Told you not to try that, I said. Marissa bolted for the door, but I grabbed her before she got far. She fought like a cornered cat, scratching and kicking, but 17 years had taught me exactly how to hold her without doing real harm. I zip-tied her wrist behind her back and sat her in a chair. Leonard's bleeding bad, she said. He needs a doctor. Leonard needs to learn actions have costs, I said. I walked back to him, still struggling with the knife in his wrist. Blood smeared the table, but I'd aimed carefully. No major arteries hit. Account numbers, I said. Screw you, he spat. I nudged the knife. He screamed again. Account numbers. This time he spilled. Every Bahamas account, every dummy company, every hidden fund they'd stashed for their new life. I jotted it all in a notebook I'd brought for this. Thanks, I said. Now we move to the endgame. What endgame? Marissa asked. I pulled the gas can from my bag and started pouring fuel around the room. The smell was sharp, heavy in the small space. Corey, no, Marissa said. Please, we'll do anything. Turn ourselves in, testify against each other. Whatever you want. Anything except undoing what you did, I said. Anything except give me back the 17 years you stole. Leonard was still trying to wrench the knife from his wrist, every twitch sending fresh blood across the table. You're not a killer, Corey, he said through clenched teeth. You're not like us. You're damn right, I said. I'm the last honest man standing. I pulled out my lighter and held it up so they could see the glint. Hold on, Marissa said, her voice desperate. There's something you need to know. What? I'm pregnant, she said. 8 weeks. I stopped pouring the gas. What did you say? I'm pregnant, she repeated. We were going to tell you after we were gone. Whose kid? She glanced at Leonard, then back at me. I don't know. The lighter felt like a brick in my hand. A baby? After 9 years of trying, doctors, tests, and heartbreak, now she was pregnant, with a child that could be mine or his, the guy who'd helped her torch our marriage. You're lying, I said. I'm not, she said. The test's in my purse. With her hands zip-tied, she couldn't reach it. I grabbed her bag from the couch and found the pregnancy test. Positive. 2 clear lines staring back at me. It changed everything, or maybe nothing at all. Congrats, I said, tossing the test into the pool of gas at my feet. You're gonna be a mom. Corey, please, she said. If there's any chance this baby's yours? No chance, I said. We haven't been together in 2 months. You were too busy with Leonard. That's not true, she said, eyes darting as she did the mental math, scrambling for a timeline that might save her. 2 months, 4 days. I've been keeping track. Please, she whispered, don't do this. I flicked the lighter. The flame danced, catching the gas fumes in the air. You burned everything I cared about, I said. My marriage, my trust, my belief in people. You made me into this. We can fix it, Leonard said. We can make it right. Some things don't get fixed, I said. I dropped the lighter. The fire caught fast, blue flames racing across the gas, swallowing the room in seconds. Marissa screamed. Leonard thrashed against the knife pinning his wrist. Smoke thickened, choking the air. I walked to the back door and swung it open. The rush of fresh air fed the flames. Their voices followed me, shouting my name, begging, offering promises they couldn't keep. I stepped into the rain and didn't look back. The fire lit up the night, a blazing orange glow against the storm clouds over Clearwater Lake. I drove slowly down the winding lake road, watching the flames devour Leonard's family cabin in my rear view. By the time the volunteer fire crew showed up, there'd be nothing but cinders and blackened beams. And the truth, finally out. My shoulders stung where Leonard had nicked me with a shard of glass during our scuffle. Not deep, but it'd need cleaning. I stopped at a truck stop outside Ben and patched it up in the bathroom. The cut ran from my collarbone to my shoulder, shallow but long. It'd scar. Good. I wanted a mark to remember this night. At a payphone by the gas pumps, I called Detective Larson, using my janitor voice one last time. "This is Gus Harlan," I said. "Got something you need to see." "Gus, it's 3 a.m., he said. "Marissa Platt and Leonard Price," I said. "They've got offshore accounts in the Bahamas. I've got the numbers." I read off every digit Leonard had coughed up with the knife in his wrist. "How'd you get this?" Larson asked. "Does it matter? 800 grand, stolen from kids with special needs. Now you can get it back." "Gus, where are you?" I hung up and headed north toward Tacoma. The radio played old 80s tunes, songs that took me back to high school, to simpler days when right and wrong seemed clear. I still knew the difference. I just learned sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes you need justice, the kind that can't be plea-dealed or slapped with community service. The sun was rising as I hit Tacoma's city limits. The town looked like it always did. Neat houses with big lawns, American flags on porches, the kind of place where folks thought they knew each other's secrets. Except they hadn't known Marissa's or Leonard's. They'd been fooled by smiles, school fundraisers, and campaign promises. Not anymore. I parked at the shop and sat in my truck, watching the sunrise streak the sky red and gold. In a few hours, Russ would roll into the shop, and we'd kick off another day of honest work. Oil changes, tire rotations, engine fixes. Straightforward problems with clean answers. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Clearwater Lake fire under investigation. Tukasi. 2 bodies found. Arson suspected. 2 bodies. Marissa and Leonard didn't make it out after all. Maybe Leonard's wound was worse than I thought. Maybe the smoke got them before they could break free. Maybe justice hit harder than I'd planned. I deleted the text and headed inside to scrub the smoke from my hands. 3 days later, the FBI announced they'd clawed back $927,000 from accounts tied to Marissa Platt and Leonard Price. The money was headed back to Westfield Elementary's special needs programs. The kids would get their gear after all: wheelchairs, speech devices, therapy tools. The fire report said Marissa and Leonard died trying to burn evidence of their crimes. Gas traces were found all over the cabin, along with scorched financial records and gadgets. Case closed, homicide-suicide, with Leonard as the main suspect. Nobody batted an eye at the mechanic whose wife betrayed him. Why would they? Corey Platt was just a simple, honest guy crushed by his wife's deceit. He deserved pity, not questions. At Marissa's funeral, I sat up front, shaking hands with neighbors and friends. They said they were sorry, said it was a shock, said I deserved better than what she put me through. They weren't wrong. I deserved better. After the service, I drove to the cemetery and watched them lower her casket into the earth. 17 years of marriage reduced to a pine box and a headstone that'd soon be choked by weeds. "I loved you," I said to the grave. I really did. But love wasn't enough. It never was. Love was just the story people told themselves to cling to someone who didn't earn it. I walked to my truck and drove off without a glance back. 6 months later, I was swapping oil on a Ford Escape when Detective Larson swung by the shop. "How you holding up, Corey?" he asked. "One day at a time," I said, wiping my hands. "Just wanted to thank you for your help with the money trail," he said. That anonymous tip about the offshore accounts broke the case wide open. "Anonymous tip?" I said. "Yeah, someone called in the account numbers the night of the fire," he said. "Said he was a school janitor, but we couldn't track him down. Probably just a citizen dodging the spotlight." "Probably," I said, keeping my face blank. "Anyway, the kids are getting their stuff. New wheelchairs, communication tools, therapy programs," he said. "Your wife would have been thrilled." My wife, if he only knew what would have thrilled her. "She would have," I said. Larson left, and I got back to work. Honest work, the kind that didn't demand lies, theft, or betrayal, the kind that let me sleep like a rock. That evening, I drove by Westfield Elementary. Through the classroom windows, I saw kids using the new gear bought with the recovered cash. Wheelchairs, speech aids, tools to help them learn and grow. They'd never know their equipment was paid for with fire and blood. They'd never know justice sometimes took a dark turn. They'd never know the town's quiet mechanic had become something else on a stormy night by Clearwater Lake. They didn't need to know. They just needed the help. I drove back to my empty house in Tacoma's Proctor district and cooked dinner for one. The quiet didn't bug me anymore. Silence was honest. It didn't cheat or steal or stab you in the back. Silence was the sound of a man who'd done what had to be done and was finally at peace. Outside my kitchen window, a campaign sign glowed under a streetlight. Re-elect Leonard Price. Trust in us. I smirked and raised my coffee mug in a fake toast. Here's to the last honest man, I said to the empty room.